Meeting to order, please. Before we go and do our moment of silence, I know there were two educators, and I'm apologizing that the names did not get to me, but there were two professionals that passed away last week, and I would like for you to keep their names. Those persons in mind, their family during Christmas holidays, of course. And also, I would like for you to keep our servicemen and women that are serving overseas, and keep them in your prayers that they come home safely, and also for those that are coming home for the holidays, that they have a excellent, beautiful Christmas. Mr. Cortez.
Also, if I could add, our former deputy superintendent, his father passed away last week.
Okay.
Keep him in your prayers as well.
Anyone else? This place for the moment of silence, please. Thank you. Mr. Escobedo, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to you, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Doctor. Just let the record reflect that every board member is present tonight, Pat. Item number 5, recommend approving the agenda for the regular board meeting of December 15, 2009, with any correction, deletion. Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a couple of changes here. Under the superintendent's report, B, conference presentation, item number 7, page 55A, will be added to the agenda backup. Under closed meeting, personnel matters, item number 28, page 256, will be replaced with 256A. Pages 256B and 256C will be added to the backup agenda. And under B, consultation with attorney, item number 33A, page 264 will be deleted from the agenda backup.
Okay. Anyone else? Do I entertain a motion? Been moved to approve by Mr. Cortez. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Colunga. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. Approve the item number 6, approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of November the 17th, 2009, with any corrections.
Move to approve.
Which was this? Mr. Cortez, move to approve? Mr. Saez, I'm sorry. Mr. Saez, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Colunga. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Okay. Pat.
Item 7, Superintendent's Report. A, Conference Presentations. 1, presentation on monthly report from the BISD Bond Oversight Committee. Bond Oversight Committee meeting was held on December 3rd, 2009.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Butch Barbosa, I know he is here in the audience with us, and he can give us our latest update with our Bond Oversight Committee. Butch?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. First of all, in behalf of the Oversight Committee, we'd like to wish every one of the board members a season's greetings, and hope that you have a wonderful holidays, and to all our citizens here in Cameron County. We had our meeting on December the 3rd. It was a lot of change orders and stuff that were presented to us, but we're going to take a on-site tour of Keller on December the 17th to make sure that all that is done completely and it's good with the what they are recommending to you at a later time. We also will have a tour on January the 7th of the new high school, which is basically all they're doing is doing a lot of punch lists that they have, that they're working on that. We also had election of officers, and yours truly was elected chairman, along with Larry Holtzman as the vice chair. And we did amend our bylaws and have been corrected to indicate the changes that have occurred because of the committee. I don't know if there's any questions or anything else that you'd like but that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Size.
You amended your bylaws to do what?
One of the changes was that they had indicated, it was still indicating there from the very beginning, you know, where it had that we elected like a PR person or a spokesman type, and that was actually gonna be done by the PR person of the district rather than the board itself or the oversight committee. So that was corrected and done away with. And basically, that was the only correction that was done. Everybody had reviewed it and gone over it, and that was the only thing that was amended at that time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Barbosa, you know that your job is not over. You're in your committees, right?
Well, I always listen to the board meetings that you have on your network, and I overheard, or I listened to it, and it indicated that you're building another new, I believe it was an elementary school, and you were gonna try to give us that even in addition to the new buildings and the new, as far as the bonds that had been approved by the citizens of the school district. But I know that the committee would really enjoy, I mean, everybody seems to enjoy what they're doing. And they go to all the meetings, you know, so I don't think there'll be a problem in any new charges that you'd like to give us for us to do and accomplish for you on your behalf. I know there's so much stuff that goes on in the district, it's just so large. So I think that we would definitely accept any new charges that you all would give us to do.
But we really enjoy the oversight committee, and we trust them. We have done an excellent job for us, and we just want to keep you working, busy.
Let me ask one more question.
Yes, sir.
One of today's items on the agenda is going to be about the approval of the Thomas Keller Elementary, the interior only, as substantially complete. Does bond oversight have anything to say about that?
No, that's why we're going to Keller, because they had indicated had done some changes. And we were basically pretty much in favor of all the changes that were going to occur and happen. But the committee wanted to be able to take a on-site view of exactly what it was, and that's why we didn't have a final recommendation saying that it be approved at that time.
Okay.
You remember that date y'all are going?
We're going on the 17th.
Okay. Would you,
At 1 o'clock.
would you mind getting me just a written report of what you have discovered with what y'all said y'all were going to do?
Okay.
Because, and I'll discuss that later on in our agenda item, but it would assist me.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Garcia.
You know, that yesterday we had a policy committee meeting, and we were discussing about certain things about the energy efficient and how our buildings are supposed to be energy efficient because of the changes and so forth. And my question is that, are we making sure that those buildings, as you as a committee, that's part of your concern also as well, that to make sure that we are building them energy efficient?
Yes, every time in one of the individual projects, it's always asked as far as like the windows, the doors, the ceilings, the roofing, as far as the energy is concerned, the air conditioners. We pretty much dissect the whole situation and making sure that it is energy efficient as a product of company. Matter of fact, some of the lightings, were questioned at one time or the other to make sure that there were the savings.
The requirements of the energy efficient for the light bulbs, or
Correct.
that's a concern that I think it should be to all of us as board members, because that's where we're starting to try to save all this money that we need to save and keep in the district. So I just wanted to make sure that that was something that was being looked at and taking into, on a building that's built, whether it's one that we just started or it's in an older building that we have to upgrade to be able to have energy efficient in that building itself.
Like I say, we pretty much digested pretty thorough, and since we have, all the members, questions come left and right from people that open the door for something else, so they're able to ask other questions in reference to that. I'm telling you, I'm very proud of the committee. The committee does very well. It's in the middle of the holidays, and I was concerned because of staff, putting them to a burden, but they had no objections of going on the 17th and then going back in the 7th. I mean, they have to get things on the agenda, and they didn't have enough time to be able to do it, but they were willing to be able to go out there and tour the facilities as we go.
I have also concerns as we're going to start the building of the new elementary that's going to be over here by Dana Road, and that road is pretty narrow. I know that Texas Department of Transportation has already, they've looked into, that street itself, but when you come into the corner of Dana, and I think it's Rancho Viejo, which is the back road that is right where Gallegos is at. I can't remember the name of the street, but I think it's Rancho Viejo. Both streets are very narrow. Is that something that you guys are going to start looking into once the project starts to see? Because both schools are going to be so close that I now have a concern of the volume or the number of traffic, the vehicles that are going to be going through there.
See, here again, we are just an advisory and recommendation to you all of what happens. Back at the beginning of the committee, when we were first doing, I believe it was Keller or
Manzano?
Monsanto, they were saying about the road, because it was right in the middle of a residential area. And we questioned about the buses going in there. We questioned about the road on the side, the ditch belonging to the, one of the ditch districts that they were the owners of it, how we're gonna do it. We questioned it. We brought it to the board at that particular time. And that particular board kind of just went along with it, and now you all are had to be able to get buy that extra land next to the school, and being able to make it, because the requirements from the state and then the requirements from the city, and I still don't know how the buses are going to be able to drive through the middle of a residential area. The people park out there, and people just park along the road. But it was just like I said, we made the recommendation, and at that point, it was just a hello goodbye situation, unfortunately. But now we're correcting all those that are coming along with, thanks to you all allowing us to be able to do that, even though it was recommended at the very beginning. It's something that we should be looking at, because the city didn't allow us to. We wanted it to be a one-way street, but I can understand the residential area of how you can make it a one-way street going out into Glore and that type of situation. But we were really on top of it at that point, even though some people just keep on bringing it up over and over and over again. But I mean, it's something that happened, something that was recommended to the board at that time, and they kind of just went over their heads and nothing was done. And
Yeah, and I understand. I think that is already over and done with. My concern is just going to be over here, that we make sure that we can stay on that itself too, because of the traffic, since there's going to be two
and I know that
elementaries.
there's a lot of members, there's a couple of members that always are bringing up the situation of trying to get Text Talk to make a report of the amount of traffic that goes through there and going by, and we want to go over our boundaries, because I think it's something that that's administration job, not our job. But we recommend it to them to be able to get the flow, so it's not as rapid. Because I know when we first started, right in front of Ituria was just terrible. Traffic was just, I mean, you have to be there to be able to understand it. But we really looked into that, and now it's been corrected, and it looks a lot better now than before. And we were very, very close in contact with your police chief, of being able to get that corrected.
And those are good points, Mr. Barroso, Ms. Garcia. And I'm pretty sure the administration would take those into consideration when they sit down with the architect and start drawing the plan for the new school. And I think there's some way that we can prevent some of those things from happening again. I think we would be better off.
Yeah, well, I think that administration always includes us in a lot of the stuff
Right.
that goes, as it goes along. And then we're able to put a lot of
That's right.
input into the situation as we go along. And we just, like I said, we just come to you all to recommend what our feelings are and what we think it should be. So, and like I said, I'm very proud of the committee.
I'm pretty sure that they're doing a good job. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Fine.
sir.
Item 2, presentation on parent link, presenter Danielle Capel, board member request.
Ms. Peña?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chappelle, right? Or Capel? I have a hard time pronouncing your name, but we met this gentleman at one of our conferences, Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, members of the board and public audience, and he made a presentation that I thought would be nice that he would present to us. It was very interesting to us, and to me anyway, and I thought it would be something that, if it's not from, this is something that's out there with several different vendors, and I wanted a presentation, because this is something that is very essential to the safety of our students and our schools and our community. And he asked to make a presentation, and I thought it was a good idea. So thank you for coming, and you may proceed.
Thank you very much, President, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I appreciate you yielding some time this evening for a brief presentation and introduction to ParentLink. And certainly wish all of you and all in your community, as I am from out of town, a very happy holiday and a very prosperous new year. I do represent ParentLink, and we are indeed a leader in the K-12 market, and we are a communications consulting and technology firm out of the Mountain West area. And as Ms. Pena mentioned, there are a number of reasons for me being here tonight. In addition to that, there are a number of technologies that the district has looked at and will continue to look at to meet your communications needs. And my intention this evening is just to introduce you to us and how we're different and how we can offer some value to your community and more especially to your district. Our mission statement truly defines the direction that we go. Our goal is to improve learning, not to just provide you with a toolbox, so to speak, of tools. Our goal is actually to help the community and to help the district improve the learning of the students. And we do that by providing different products and services that facilitate communication between those essential partners in your community to facilitate that learning. I think it's important for you to know that of the approximately 50 different products that the district could use to some degree or another to facilitate the type of communication that we provide, approximately, well, half of the 10 largest school districts in the nation have chosen to use ParentLink. And there is substantial reason for that. Among those on that list, there are 3 specific reasons that I feel are more essential for your consideration than perhaps the others. And the first one is our commitment to help the district accomplish your specific goals. Again, we don't want to provide you with just a toolbox where you could make telephones ring or email boxes fill up with information, but specifically to tailor our product to help your community and your district accomplish the things that are important to you. We've been doing this for 20 years. We just had our 20th anniversary, and we've, in all of our expertise, find that we do a much better job focusing on helping you accomplish your objectives than any of our competitors. We also claim to have the best service in the industry, and that can be backed up by the renewal rate of our clients on an annual basis, as well as the large number of clients that continue to work with us. In addition to that, we know that currently financial times are very crucial more so now than even in the past. And we are one of the few items on that can be found on your budget that can actually bring a specific return, a return on investment back into the district. A few of our clients here in Texas, Fort Worth, Leander, Edinburgh, Midland, Klein, and Midlothian. You can see that we run the gamut in terms of size. And this list only represents those districts in the state of Texas that have become our clients within the last 6 months. We have a substantial list more than that as far as a comprehensive list of all of our clients. A couple of points here in terms of results. Philadelphia City School District is one of our clients, and we have been able to help them improve their attendance for 3 consecutive years. As a matter of fact, over the course of that 3 years plus this year that has just passed, they have been able to see a more than 5% increase in their average daily attendance, which has meant a substantial return on investment back to the district. Broward County Public Schools is also one of our clients, and we have been able to help them improve the student attendance for the FCAT reading tests. Broward County, in addition to that, we've been able to help them improve their enrollment in the free and reduced meal program. Another one of our districts, Anoka Hennepin, has been able to improve the parent confidence, which you know is crucial as a result of timely safety communications regarding the students. And lastly, as an example, Alpine School District, again in the Mountain West, has been able to improve collections on overdue lunch balances. Now, these are just some examples. These are some items that these particular districts were struggling with, and we were able to make a significant contribution back to their district in terms of assisting them in accomplishing their goals. So what does this mean to you? Recently, just as an example, there was an issue with paychecks not being deposited for the employees of the school district, and I know there was a fury of activity in terms of trying to contact everyone and let them know that that issue was being handled and would be resolved. The ParentLink solution, that would be an ideal time to use our product. But again, that's an example of more of an emergency type of situation, which we would certainly make sure that you had the capability to use there. But more importantly, our proposal and what we intend to do is continue working with the district and do a full analysis to fully understand what the district's objectives are and be able to provide you with an actual value proposition identifying specific areas that we feel we can drive improvement in addition to providing you some of those basic communication needs. So thank you for your time, and if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Pat?
Item 3, presentation on comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2009.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board and audience. At this time, we have Judge Koskos and his firm, his CPA, is going to do a little presentation on the comprehensive annual financial report. Judge, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Springston. Members of the board, thank you. But let me preface my comments by, first of all, wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah to not only you, but the members of your family, all the BISD staff, administrators, professionals, paraprofessionals, transportation department, and maintenance department. I hope you all have a very joyous and blessed holiday season. And let us be thankful for what we have and not resentful for what we don't have. With that, I hope you've had the opportunity to review the comprehensive annual financial report. We met with the audit committee last week for almost 2 hours. The audit committee consisted of Mr. Springston, Mr. Ruiz, Tony Fuller, Ms. Peña, Ms. Presas Garcia, and board president, Mr. Aguilar. We went over the audit for, like I said, 2 hours and the management letter. I will tell you that, again, the school district has earned an unqualified opinion, which is the most favorable opinion that any accounting firm can give any entity, including the private enterprise and the public sector, school district, counties, cities, et cetera. The one thing that is new about this report that was not there last year, it looks a little bit different, And the reason it looks different, it's a little bit thicker, because on page 6, you were awarded the GFOA, Government Finance Officer Association Achievement Award for excellence in financial reporting. This is the first time that the school district has received this. We, along with your accounting personnel and staff, worked hard in the June 30th, 2008 report to be able to obtain and earn this certificate. It's something that does not come easy. I will tell you that of the numerous school districts that my firm does, there's only a handful that have been able to achieve this certificate. Again, there's 3 components to the financial statements that you have before you. One of them is the management's discussion and analysis that's prepared by your staff, and it compiles the information on the audit report. It also presents comparison data from last year to this year. The second component is the actual financial statements, where we express our opinion on the fairness of the financial statements as are stated. And the third and final component is the management letter. The management letter is what we provide to you as to what we found during our testing and during the audit process. All the comments were discussed at length for this 2-hour meeting that we had. The report, when we went over in detail, a lot of good questions were asked, not only by the superintendent, by the board members as well. So with that, I ask that you take a look at the report. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. I believe that the item is also on the consent part for approval, but at this point, this is the time to hopefully, speak to each other and talk about each other. Any questions any board member may have.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes, thanks for being here today, Judge. And, as we discussed that day in the audit meeting, we discussed some issues that we have a concern, and I think through the years you have also made us aware of it, because like you discussed with board president and Ms. Peña and myself, were that there were some of these issues that you brought up to us before in the past, and you just kind of, they still exist, and that's something that I guess we're going to have to try to work really hard and try to make sure that our staff understands that these are things that you are also viewing as you do the report, or that you go thoroughly when you go through different departments to see what's like a PO, there's no purchase order number, and there's an invoice before the PO. So, and those have been great concerns to a lot of us, because we have a policy in place that we should not approve anything over an amount of money unless it's got a PO already in place. So with that, I'd like to share with the rest of the board members, because I know that that was something that was discussed. Another thing that I know that was discussed at time and time again, you point out certain expenses through the district that we could probably save a little more in certain areas if we can just implement those positions within the district. So that's something that I would like to share with the board as well, that just in the legal matter, hiring an internal attorney, that's been also discussed in past reports, previous reports, and as a new, I've been here for a year and a month already, and I'd like to see that happen, and I'm sharing it with the board members that that's something that I would like to see happen soon, because I think that you've brought it up to our attention in the past where the legal fees are extremely high versus what we could be saving to the district. And taxpayers' dollars, I guess basically it's taxpayers' dollars that we're spending when we could be saving. And I'd like to thank you. It's a very thorough report. But I also have a question on this association, this certificate that the district was awarded. It had never been done in the past. Is that something that, through your experience, you had never seen this award given to us, or?
Well, one has to apply for that certificate, and there's a lot of additional paperwork that's required to be presented. A lot of times it requires your staff to go back and basically compile historical information. They want the statements presented in a certain way. And so the school district had really never asked for it until that year. And you will find, and I encourage you to continue with the process, because it adds, an unqualified opinion is great to have. And like I've mentioned to you at other meetings, that's an opinion you do not want to lose. Coupled with this type of certificate, it's not handed out. There is a lot of additional work that your staff must do. We played a part, but really all the credit must go to your accounting people. We have a checklist of the GFOA checklist that we follow. We helped obtain the certificate, but really the credit must go to you all. We just kind of helped compile it, and we've had members of our firm in other offices that were members of the GFOA review committee at the national level. And so we have a little bit of understanding of what it takes to obtain that certificate. The city of Brownsville has that certificate. You all now have that certificate. Cameron County has that certificate. And it's something that, next year hopefully you'll have the June 30th, 2009. It'll always be a year behind because obviously we're presenting the June 30th, 2009 now.
So then this report that we were awarded, the certificate, was under the chief financial officer that we previously had. If it was in '08?
It was June 30th of '08, that's
So
correct.
then that means that it was when we had another chief financial officer.
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah.
whomever it was.
So then whoever is now, then we need to encourage that they apply because it would be for the '09 then.
Yes, ma'am. Just as a side note, the hardest one to obtain is that first one. And we did receive some commentaries in terms of recommendations as to how to format the report, what order the table of contents should be in. A lot of it is more so cosmetic. But coupled with that, it requires a lot more historical data that really have to research to go back. But once you have that, then just a matter of just updating it every year and make sure that not only the administration but the CPA firm keeps up with all the new pronouncements and all the standards that come this way.
Anyone
Thank
else?
you.
Mr. Casco, I want to thank you, and also at this point, I also want to thank the administration for responding to some of the concerns that came out on the audit. I'm very pleased that the administration came out with a plan and they're working on it. There were good recommendations at that meeting, looking at quarterly reports by the administration, looking at training, so these things we can improve and reduce some of this stuff. As you all know, that this been an unusual year, and this is why some of those fees that you saw there have been increased. And of course, we hope that doesn't happen again, and that our personnel is conscious of it, that we cannot go out there and say things that later on come to haunt us. And also, I believe that the administration did a good job in cutting some of those things. I'm talking about the ID numbers that persists in all across the district, and I think the administration has made a good recommendation that perhaps we can also stop some of these things. And I like to encourage the finance department also, if this is an award that we apply, then perhaps we can apply with it. Sometimes we're very humble, the district, and there's awards all over the place and we don't apply for them, you see. But like you said, there's historical data that this can continue in the present day. So, and also I want to thank you and your firm for an excellent report to us, and I'm pretty sure the board would look at it seriously, and some recommendation will come out of it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Aguilar?
Thank you.
Okay, one more.
Yes, because of the gifts and stuff, you couldn't see me, so
Okay.
I apologize. I just wanted to tell Mr. Gascos, I want to thank you for the clarity of the report. It was easy to understand. It was clear. Everything was done in such a manner that anyone could pick it up, look at it, understand what was being said. And I want to thank you for that, because that takes a lot of hard work.
Thank you,
So
ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Judge. Pat?
Item 4, presentation of the Brownsville Independent School District financial report for the period ended October 31st, 2009.
Mrs. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we have any questions at this time, I have it in your backup information. Mr. Reese, any questions?
No questions, anyone? Pat?
Item 5, presentation of notification of contingency fund change orders.
Mrs. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Several contingency fund change orders. If you have any questions on them, I'll be glad to answer your questions right now.
All contingency fund changers are adding money back into the contract, right? Refunds? The two?
No,
Venezuelan or back
we're
to?
doing something with Raquel Pena. Right now, we're adding some hand dryers, some power drips in the pre-K restrooms. We're looking at some VCT flooring in dry storage room in the kitchen area, which is being requested by the city health department. From the food service request, additional electrical installations in the kitchen. Once we found some of the equipment that they were bringing in. The police department and the principal had gotten together about an additional gate on a chain link fence that they thought was imperative for the safety of the kids. Some light switching. There was just a few things that when they went through the process that they thought they could improve the management, improve the safety, improve the overall texture of the school. There were some surveillance cameras that the police department requested that they take a look at and put in different locations for the safety of our children. And a power and data drop for the biometric clocks. We wanted additional sidewalk to the dumpster in the dumpster area, which still left us with about $88,000 in that contingency fund.
Anyone else?
I have a
Ms.
question.
Garcia?
On the hand dryers, that was not in the planning originally, or what they
was-
decided to put hand dryers at the last minute?
It was additional hand dryers. They had so many, and then they decided with the numbers that they needed to put some additional ones in there.
Okay.
Anyone else? I want to thank the administration on the detailed report that you answered that question, Mr. Springton, because our board members have been asking that kind of information, so I'm very pleased that you were provided in that kind of format. So there would be no question as to what we're doing on this. Mr. Cortez, I think you will enjoy that, right?
Very much.
Thank you very much. Pat?
Item 6, presentation on middle school attendance zones for 2010-2011.
Mrs. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, Ms. Fox, I'll go ahead and turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board. As we prepare to open Manzano Middle School, our 11th middle school, we have a very brief presentation this evening regarding the middle school attendance zones for that campus for the 2010-2011 school year. Ben Estrada is here with those specifics. And Mr. Estrada, we can go ahead and begin.
Mr. Aguilar, Mr. Springston, board members, ladies and gentlemen. As Ms. Fox said, we're getting ready to open up Manzano Middle School. And basically, the one middle school that will be the greatest impact in terms of its opening is going to be Stillman Middle School. As of December 6th, the enrollment at Stillman was 1,348 students. When Manzano comes online, that enrollment should drop to about 882. Okay? You can see on the screen the area in yellow is the zone for Stillman Middle School, and this basically wraps all around 281 and goes all the way up through Rancho Viejo. And you can see the Manzano zone right in here. And we can zoom in on it a little bit tighter here. You can see that campus will open with approximately 575 to 600 students. And even though the zone's pretty small, you can see that there are a lot of kids in that area. Now, the opening of Manzano is also going to affect two other middle schools, not as much, but it will alleviate just a little bit. If we look at the Stell zone, which is the area in blue, they have a present enrollment of 1,073 students. That should go down to about 990. And the reason for that is, Raul, back me up here. Right in here, this is the VICC subdivision. That area was rezoned to Benavides. And to maintain that feeder pattern, Benavides goes into Stillman, so that area was pulled from Stell going into Stillman. Okay? The other campus that will be affected is Vela Middle School. When we opened Pullum, we had that one area right in here that was rezoned from Burns over to Pullum. These students, again, to maintain the feeder pattern, will move over to Stillman. So Vela, their present enrollment is 1,136. They would go down to about 865.
Excuse me, how much? How many?
865.
Thank you, sir.
Okay? And basically, those are the only campuses that will be affected by the opening of Manzano.
Good numbers.
Could you repeat the ones that were by VICC, can you go back to that?
Yes, right in here.
Okay, and that entails
It's right in here.
Okay, and what areas below, where it says 44, do you see where number 44 is?
44,
The
right in here?
44 blue, the number 44.
Yes.
What area is that?
This
streets?
is both the corner of Boca Chica and Central Boulevard. This is Russell Elementary right here.
So I guess I'm looking at the neighborhood that hits Honeydale,
Honeydale,
which are like Lewis Lane, Jade. Are they anywhere in? It's Honey Drive, all of those. It's hard to
By
read
Los
from here.
Ébanos.
yeah, it's a little blurry.
Would that be
Well,
part?
because here's Pace right here. This is Pace right here,
Okay.
okay? And I know that Honeydale's in that particular area, right? I can't zero in on the,
I don't see it there.
We have Los Ébanos, Honeydale, Honey Drive.
I don't see it on there, so. My question is that area is gonna be rezoned out of Stell, because I'm getting calls from that to see, because when this zoning was gonna come in, I don't know that it's in there, so I wouldn't be able to.
no, the only area that was affected by the rezoning is the VICC area.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only area that was moved, and the only reason that it's being moved is because those kids went from Russell over to Benavides.
Okay, thank you, that was my question.
Anyone else? Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, thank you, Ben.
Item 7, presentation of Board of Trustees training credit hours required by the State Board of Education.
Mr. Springton, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'll go ahead and have our board secretary, Ms. Perez, go ahead and name the names and also the total hours.
Rolando Aguilar, 21.50, total hours, 139 hours, exceeded required training. Joe Colunga, 24.50, total hours, 140 hours, exceeded required training. Ruben Cortez, 52.50, 121.25 total hours, exceeded required training. Dr. Enrique Escobedo, 22.50, total hours, 157 hours, exceeded required training. Kathy P. Garcia, 45.50 hours, total hours, 48.50, exceeded required training. Minerva Peña, 26.75, total hours, 32.25, exceeded required training. Rick Zayas, 19.75, total hours, 25.25, exceeded required training.
Any question, board members? Mr. Springton.
Congratulations. No, good job for
Yes, and this is just the beginning, because now we're locked in into how many?
another 130.
130 hours and days to come. And I'm very proud of the board. I mean, they have really, we're 100% attendance in the last two sessions we had when was it? Thursday and Friday, last week? Yes. Thank you very much.
B, standing board agenda items. 8, board calendars.
Mr. Springton, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, in just a few minutes, we'll start our Board of Trustees annual tamalada.
Yeah, we're gonna do that to public.
And we're going to do that after a public audience here in just a little bit. Tomorrow, we do have a principals workshop and meeting starting at 11:30 here in the boardroom. We begin our Christmas vacation at the end of school day on the 18th. I see a few smiles out there when I said that. I think everybody looked. John, I see you. George. Of course, Christmas Day on the 25th. We come back. We got New Year's on 1st, and we come back to school on Monday the 4th. Depending on the agenda item, the consent item, I did not see that. We are looking at canceling the board meeting on the 5th if approved at tonight's meeting. And of course, you know, on the 7th, we do have a bond oversight committee, but also UT plays Alabama, and I just wanted y'all to remember that, okay?
Okay.
The next item on our agenda is a public comment period.
Peña.
This is the time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting, so please let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter of your comments must appear in the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments. With all due courtesy, the presiding officer will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment in the judgment of the presiding officer constitutes a complaint against an employee or officer, the presiding officer will interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the BISD's formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, or GF local. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments.
Yes. Pat, let me say that 8 people have signed up for the, so we're going to limit it to 3.5 minutes. And of course, Mr. Saldaña, you are the official clock watchers. First one is Mrs. Minerva Peña.
Mr. Flores and Ms. Rita Hernandez, if you're here in the building, would you step up here? They were supposed to be in here, but hopefully they'll walk in by the time my 3 minutes are up. I'm here to address you and to thank you. And I wanted to personally do this because I've been fighting for this program for years. This program got my 2 youngest boys full scholarships, room, tuition, the fees, everything. I paid $200 deposit to get them a 4-year degree. And I'm going to ask if I get it back at the end. But that's what my children said. But this is the program that entitled them to apply and be at the top of the list. I bring Ms. Rita Hernandez up here. She had, and Mr. Flores, is Mr. Flores? They're looking for him. I just wanted to share with and thank her personally because they just went to compete last weekend in Dallas to the national grade level competition. And I am so proud that, I mean, I've been beaming. That's because my children are no longer doing this because they have already moved on. But Ms. Rita had 2 teams placed in the top 6 teams in the country. Her 2nd grade team placed 2nd. Very proud of it. And let me read the names of the list. First place was Ness School from New York. 2nd place, Hudson, Brownsville, Texas. 3rd place, Hunter College, New York. 4th place, Delton, New York. 5th place, Columbia Grammar, New York. We are 2nd, and New York knows we're on their heels. And now have you know that they lost by half a point. A player had to win 1/2 more game. Her 3rd place team, her 3rd grade team placed 6th in the nation. Hunter College again, New York. Delton, New York again. Rogers in Houston came in 3rd. Stuart Hall from Nebraska came in 4th. And New York again, Columbia, 5th. And Hudson, 6th place. These children are amazing. Again, I cannot even express how it feels to walk into a national tournament and they ask you, where are you from? And we say, Texas, and they say, not Brownsville. And we say, yes. And I am so proud, and I want to thank Ms. Hernandez because she gives 100% to these kids because this is tomorrow's future. Thank you, Ms. Rita Hernandez.
Thank you very much.
And we will recognize the team in the future. I also have Mr. Flores, Victor Flores. This is our 8th grade team, am I correct? Yes. And these children came in 3rd in the nation by 2.5 points. And I want Mr. Flores to sit here and name our children here. Like I said, the top 5, the older you get, getting to high school, you're up with some stiff competition. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going against people who have masters teaching them at $100 an hour. Oh. $100 an hour. My child one time played a child, and he beat him. In between rounds, we were just checking into the hotel. They walk around with a chest bag, and they say, hey, you want to play? And they drop right there and play. My child beat a child. The father looks at my child and says, who trains you? My son said, my dad, but not anymore because he can't beat me anymore. So when this man turned around and looked at his trainer, and he said, how did this child beat my son? That trainer asked me, may I play your son? I said, yes, by all means. He sat and played my son, who was in 3rd grade at the time, and he drew my son. He just looked at me. And your son doesn't have a master's teaching him? No. This child is learning from other students like him and very, very qualified teachers. So right now I want to hand this over real quick to Mr. Flores from Vela to announce your players.
Mr. Superintendent, Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to announce my pride and joy, my 8th graders, which I'm going to miss very much once they graduate from Vela. Kyle Valdez. Gabriel Gomez. And Ian Santos. Congratulations.
Again, thank you, school board members. We could not have done this without your support, and I thank you for forming and shaping tomorrow's leaders through the chess program. Thank you, the City of Brownsville, for everything you've done to help these kids get to these national tournaments. Thank you, community, and thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas.
I got a pic.
Come on. Mr. Hernandez, yes, yes, come on, come. It's okay.
Middle of it. Wait, read out. Yes.
I read down?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Brad Schwartz.
Mr. President, school board members, my name is Brad Schwartz. I'm from Mercedes, and I'm in the construction business. I'm here to talk briefly about y'all's central warehouse that's going to be coming up, I believe, for letting on who will receive the job. VCC, my understanding, is a low bid, and I just wanted y'all to know that this company is an unbelievable company. I currently am working with them on the new PSJ High School and also in Central Middle School. I've worked with them in Laredo, I've worked with them in Arkansas, and they are just a phenomenal company. I know Brownsville's worked with a lot of different general contractors and had a lot of really good work done. But I just think this is a good opportunity, not only because they're low bid, but because of who they are. When I was in your lobby, I noticed that y'all are in the top 100 school districts in the nation, which I'm sure you're very proud of and should be. They as well are in the top 100 contractors in the nation. They build everything from FBI buildings, hotels, Bass Pro Shops, Galleria Mall in Houston, Dallas. It's just an amazing company. And I've worked with a lot of general contractors and a lot of good general contractors. But don't let this one out of y'all's hands. Helps keep competition good. You're not going to get a better general contractor. Don't turn the low bid down when you've got a real Cadillac construction company. I had my office print up some information today, copy I'd like to leave with y'all. And just take a few minutes, call Dr. King and PSJ, call Dr. Rivera at Weslaco. I think they'll tell you, wow, great company. Thank y'all and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
I have business cards here as well if anybody has a question.
Ronnie Renfro.
Good evening, Mr. Springston, Board President Rolanda Aguilar, distinguished board members, and audience members. My name is Ronnie Renfro, and I come before you tonight just to bring you holiday greetings and thanks. As the extremely proud principal of the Brownsville Early College High School, I want to bring you season's greetings from my students, faculty, staff, and parents. We are all extremely grateful for the incredible support the board and district and the university have given to our students. The opportunity to achieve both a Distinguished Achievement Program high school diploma and associate's degree in 4 years is such a gift that we wanted to make sure you were aware that we are thankful as we proceed towards that goal. I am also here as the director of the Regional the Rio Grande Valley Regional Science and Engineering Fair, and again to say thanks, because BISD for the past 8 years has provided us with the support of staff and equipment to host the Rio Grande Regional Science and Engineering Fair at UTBTSC. We will be coming to you soon to ask for that continued support of staff and materials as the Valley celebrates the 50th consecutive annual Rio Grande Valley Regional Science and Engineering Fair on March 5th and 6th, 2010. This is something that was very dear to Mr. Bastero's heart, and we will be trying to continue Mr. Bastero's scholarship that is awarded to the grand champion at that fair. And our grand champion last year was a Hannah student, Leah Garza, who is taking advantage of that scholarship now. So from the Rio Grande Valley Regional Science and Engineering Fair, have a wonderful holiday, and thanks again for all that you do for our
Thank
students
you,
in
ma'am.
Brownsville.
Thank you.
Patrick Hams, please.
Members of the board, Superintendent Springsteen, my name is Patrick Hammis, special education teacher at Leavitt Middle School. I only have 3.5 minutes, and I want to talk to you about special ed testing, which again is not necessarily enough time. I came 2 weeks ago. You all had too much fun then, so I didn't want to bother you. Permission to approach so I can give you a handout? Yes?
How you doing? Good to see you.
Merry Christmas to you.
What I've given you is a copy of the state PBMAS for special education testing. If you look at areas 2 and 3, make that 3 and 4. It just shows you the percentage of students that should be special education students that should be taking the state tax and tax day, which is the modified tax test. The state says it should be at least 50%. If you look at it, we're about 18.2, 18.3%. And then the one below it shows how the percentage of students that should be taking the tax in, which should be for our most severely learning disabled students. The state says 29.3, and we just about double that. I don't have, in 3.5 minutes, time to give a rationale. I'm here to ask a request and to make a challenge. The request or the early Christmas present would be for the school board and for Mr. Springsteen to make it an initiative for us to raise these numbers up. And also my challenge would be to the AAs for the same reason. We want all students, and this is when I watch the board meetings on TV and I read, I'm able to hear Mr. Springsteen talk to the students at Oliveda, and I'm able to read in the paper, okay, that all students can achieve. We have high expectations for all students. We need the same thing here, okay? Again, for 3.5 minutes, I can't go into the reasons why I think that our numbers are so low here. But personally, I don't want to be told that we don't care if we get cited for participation. I don't want to hear that can you withstand an audit? Those are to me are reasons for us not to excel. And we want all children to excel. So I think our motto should be, this is one from many years ago, might even before Mr. Springsteen joined us, was all children can learn, all children can excel. And so looking at the data, I'm hoping that the AAs and the Board of Trustees and the Superintendent, that we can make this an incentive, maybe in your plan, in your district plan, the board's district plan, that we raise this percentage up for our special education population. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. I hope you get to spend it with your family and your loved ones. And also Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And it has been addressed, sir. Thank you.
Neto Lopez. Neto Lopez.
That was my past effort. That I already went ahead and used my time. I'm not going to take up this time.
Thank you, sir. George Borrego.
Board members, Mr. Springsteen, administrators, and public audience. I'm here representing the Association of Brownsville Educators as well as myself. I would like to wish everybody a happy holiday, those that are listening to us on TV, those that are here, and the unfortunate that may not be able to be either here or there, they're having trouble somewhere. Wish all of you a happy holiday. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We're starting a new chapter today. The year is almost over. We're also starting a new year. We went through a turbulent year, taking care of some issues, and this board had the resolve to stay on course, to do what they had to do, and they did it well. And I congratulate you. Thank you very much. I hear you've chosen a new man. Congratulations on that too. We've worked with him for a few months, and he's a very honest man, a very straightforward man. And I hope that when you make your selection today, he's our man too, okay? The Insurance Committee has some bylaws that they want for you to approve. They've been working very hard. I went to one of their meetings, and they've gotten organized very well, and I hope that you approve their bylaws that are on your agenda. And I don't want to talk anymore because I'm hungry. So I'll see you outside.
Thank you, George. Orlando Trevino. Orlando? No, I told you I was going to keep the agenda currently. Don't give me that.
Early today, okay? And I am wearing my colors. I was an ex-Marine. Okay, I'm just gonna make a few short comments and everything else. I think next time somebody recommends to fight the Attorney General and hire a law firm and then drop the case, to me, it was just a waste of thousands and thousands of dollars, especially since State Representative Rene Olivera came asking for money to produce a movie which would have helped the school district. And sorry to disrespect Mr. Board President Rolando Aguilar, board members, Brett Springston, interim superintendent, administration, and public. But now that I got that off my chest, well, we got too many law firms coming. Now, let's stop this 7-digit figure. As a taxpayer, I just got finally caught up with my taxes. I can't afford any more. But I do want to tell Mr. Springston that you're doing an excellent job with this, and you and your administration, with all your personnel, 7,000 plus employees. You got a lot of obstacles, and you just got to turn around and deal with them. I think you will. You board members, you all have obstacles and everything else. I've always told everybody, I prefer fighting with you and arguing with you, but when it comes to safety and when it comes to the holidays, I want everybody safe and sound so I can fight with you next year, okay? You and your children, your spouses, and everybody else. I mean, I like for you all to enjoy your happy Christmas and New Year and everything else, and for you all to have safe trips wherever you're going. If you're staying, be careful, because I have seen a lot of senseless accidents that harm, maim, kill innocent people. So I prefer arguing with you, but I want everybody, including administration, the 7,000 plus employees, the 50,000 plus students, their parents, public, taxpayers too, all to be safe and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you very
sir.
much. And I mean, limit it to maybe one law firm, not 5. Just joking.
John Clark.
Okay, I'm not here to fight. Good evening, members of the board and Mr. Springston. Happy holidays to you. I'm John Clark, representing Brownsville Classroom Teachers Association. Hey, we've got a lobby full of festive and I think probably hungry people. So I'd like to say some nice things tonight to the board and to Mr. Springston. Mr. Springston, thanks for your continued work on payroll, on getting that right. We really appreciate that. I'd also like to congratulate you, Mr. Springston, I believe, on something that will happen later tonight. And I'm really looking forward to continuing the relationship that we have working here in the district. I'd also like to congratulate this board on the training they've undertaken. It sounds interesting. I kind of wish I could be there not to watch you guys, but to learn how to work together better with people. It sounds very interesting. And finally, I'd like to thank Mr. Ruben Cortez for the work he did on the policy committee meeting. He's really genuinely concerned about the well-being of teachers beyond the issue of pay for work conditions that we're in every day. And it's a genuine concern. He works hard for us, and I want to say thank you. And that's it. I want to say happy holidays, and I'll see you in the lobby.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We are going to approve the consent agenda just in case some people in the audience would like to stay for some of the items. It wouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. Pat?
Recommend approving the consent agenda. The board has agreed to discuss the following items. All of the items below that are not called out will be approved by consent.
Our colleagues would like to discuss number 12, 17, 22, 25, in personnel matters, number 27, 28, 32, which one is also the
Is
other?
33 taken off of the list?
The 33 came off the list, okay?
33A.
33A is
33A is off the list?
Mm-hmm. So basically, those are the, anyone, did I miss anyone?
President, I move to approve the consent agenda as
second.
reflected by administration.
Thank you. Been moved by Dr. Escobedo to approve it, second by Cortez. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those on, just a minute, sir. Those opposed say nay. Okay, we're going to take a 30-minute recess.
6:30.
Our board meeting not convinced the regular schedule.
Item 12, recommend adopting the organizational bylaws of the newly formed ad hoc insurance committee with revisions requested.
Ms. Garcia?
Oh, I had a question if the changes were made as per the request that we had on the previous board meeting, which was, I think it was the wording that we had a concern. Let's see if I can write it down. What article, that was article number 1, Ms. Peña, or which one was it, the one that we,
The should, shall?
the should to shall, or shall to
The
should?
shall, the shall, the should?
Sorry,
Yeah.
that- if I could, while
Say that 3 times real fast.
while they look for the section that they want to,
Okay.
I just want to make a comment if I could. I wasn't here at the last meeting when you all discussed this item, but subsequently I've been able to see the video of the last meeting. And as I was listening to some of the discussion, one of the things that occurred to me was when the Bond Oversight Committee was created, they were not given bylaws. They were allowed to form and create their own bylaws, and they were given the McAllen model bylaws as a guide to follow as they formed, created officers, and then they created their own bylaws and then brought them back to the board for approval. I think I would be of the opinion at this point that the formation of this ad hoc committee go forward without the bylaws, because then we're going to go back and forth on a lot of this language. Let them iron it out, bring it back to the board, and let them use this as a guide for approval. And that way it takes it off of our hands, and let them, that way they can start working on this.
Peña?
Mr. Cortez hit right on the key, what I was saying. The part that I was worried about were the amendments where the bylaws can be changed. But Mr. Cortez, how he mentioned that they make the bylaws and then they get board approval. And that's what my concern was, that they get board approval, or if this is gonna be in here that says, these bylaws may be amended in any regular meeting, providing a quorum is present by 2/3 vote of the members present and voting. Notice of the proposed amendment shall have been given at the previous regular meeting or 3 days prior to the meeting at which the amendment is voted upon. And I would wanted it to either amend that, to remove that, or to put and have board approve their amendments. And this is pretty much what Mr. Cortez is saying. Have them put it together and bring it to us. But there's some really important points that we have here, like the one that says no member of a committee may own interest or any company, limited liability company, professional corporation, partnership. Well, that I wanted to remove because pretty much these business people that come in, that's what they own, and it kind of pretty much leaves everybody.
It was removed. You gotta look at the.
No, but what I'm saying is that's the part that we wanted to remove, that, and then upon board approval for the amendments, or have them create their own and bring them up bring them before the board for approval. Either one is fine with me.
Well, I was just gonna say that I agree almost entirely with Mr. Cortez and Mrs. Peña. My only concern was a conflict of interest. I have no problem letting them you know, form and adopt their bylaws, you know, with board approval after they're finalized. But my only concern is that conflict of interest, as Mrs. Peña mentioned. And yes, I think they're more than capable of organizing and putting together their own bylaws, just like the Bond Oversight Committee did.
Well, I think they can work with this. And they can make some modifications if they want and then bring it back to us.
This is a
for
good
approval.
start.
Yes.
Sort of be like a model for them, and if they don't like those other things, that they can do it and then come back.
So, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Aguilar, Mr. Springsteen. So then, at the bottom of the amendments, then we would put that, because this is not on the proposed one, with board approval. Will we word that to come back to us, like they can start with this, but that at the board approval at the bottom, or present it to us? That way, if they change anything, we'll be kept abreast of what they're doing.
Yes, I was left with, thank you, Mr. President, I was left with 2 copies for you. One copy was what you had as proposed, and the next copy had what y'all had discussed as far as changes. There was one area for may and shall, should and shall, that actually put in gray.
Which is on page 404.
There was a conflict of interest that the first paragraph wanted to be taken out, the second paragraph be left in, and then there was, of course, a section under amendments that we went back and forth on. And so I left it there because, and then I put requires additional discussion, or now we can go ahead and put at the request of the Oversight Committee, and we can let them use that as an example.
Straight last, Mr. Spencer. So at this point, then there would be no action on this item, because all the recommendation is to approve and adopt the organizational bylaws, right? So we'd have no action. Everybody would submit their nominations, and you guys would set up a meeting date, give this to them as a model to follow, and then at some point down the road, they would bring back something that this board would approve or review.
Mr. Ayala, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead, I was just wanting to clear
you
up.
through?
Yeah, I'm through.
Go.
In the committee creating their own bylaws, this is an ad hoc committee that would have a charge from the board that this is your charge to the committee. Would the committee be able to amend that charge, or?
Can't change the charge.
Okay.
We're gonna start as an advisory committee.
But still, they can't change what the charge of the committee.
Their bylaws will revolve around the charge.
That's right.
My concern is that I would like this committee to begin working now. I think we need them yesterday. What's the tentative timeline?
As soon as I get names, I can get together and call them and start setting up a formalized time to have a meeting, and then go over what the charge is and let them start setting up their bylaws, and we can start moving.
Can we agree to submit names as soon as possible?
Like,
I've had mine for a while.
I've already submitted mine, so we can submit them. This committee can take effect.
Mr. Aguilar, okay, so then let me get clarity. We're going to allow them to use this, but kind of create their own bylaws and then bring them back for the board to approve?
Approve it, yes.
Right.
Okay, as long as they put that in there, because I don't want to
Then it's no action in this.
As long as it's clear that they can't change the charge.
I'm pretty sure that Mr.
The charges, board action, everything else.
That's right. And I think Mr. Springton will be allowed to do that.
Yes.
So we just no action tonight. Okay. Pat?
Item 17, recommend to authorize administration to pay on a one-time basis any employee's NSF charges resulting from the delay in payroll electronic fund transfers of November 24, 2009.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes, on a previous matter, we had this also, it occurred, so this, was it the same amount prior to this, or is it just a flat fee that they're charging us, or?
There's two different personnel, if I'm not mistaken, for a flat fee of $490.
Okay, that was my only question. Was it a flat fee, or was it based on just the error that we had all these NSFs, or?
It was two people with that amount of errors.
Okay.
Am I correct, Mr. Reese?
Yes, Mr. Spring, it was just two employees, and I believe it was just one bank that would not honor a letter or request to waive the fees.
Okay. So the bank did not waive the fees?
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Which bank is this? Compass?
No.
Which bank was it?
Which bank was it?
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo. Usually.
I move to approve.
Be moved to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Pena, second by Mr. Syed. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Pat?
Item 22, recommend awarding RFQ number 10-079 for audit services for the BISD self-funded medical health plan to Claim Technologies, Inc. of Des Moines, Iowa, to provide audit services, and to authorize administration to negotiate a fee for said services to be paid from the BISD Self-Insurance Fund 753.
Mr. Sayas?
On here, I just wanted to hear Mr. Whittemore tell us how you found this company or how you went about it.
You don't mind. Mr. Whittemore, come on up. You and I had those discussions today, and please go ahead and
Yes, sir.
proceed.
President Aguilar, Interim Superintendent, Mr. Springston, members of the board. Based on the last couple of meetings prior when we had the discussions regarding the health contract, it was determined to go out and perform basically a medical claims audit. What we did was we did research, we contacted basically every company that we could imagine that would do this type of service, i.e. the internet, the prior proposal that was done years ago, Big 8 accounting firms, just anyone that we thought might perform this duty, sir. We sent out 25 proposals. The first time, about 3 were received. We extended it for approximately 2 weeks. We got an additional 2, of which 1 was a no bid, so we had a total of 4.
They were given the charge to do what?
I'm sorry, sir?
Their duties are going to do what exactly?
It's twofold, sir. If you recall, the number one thing is to do a TPA audit for the past 4 years for the 2 prior TPAs, HealthSmart and Mutual of Omaha. The number 2 part of the RFQ was to determine basically the Looney recommendation based on the current proposal and the subsequent rebuttal by HealthSmart to determine what's accurate.
What was accurate information,
What's
what was
accurate.
not accurate information?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Garcia?
Yes. Will we be looking at also if they, what is it, the aggregate loss? Is it that also, are they going to be looking into that matter as to the cost savings of not having a TPA and all that?
No, ma'am. This is strictly based on the prior conversations where it's going to be strictly a medical and prescription claims audit for the past 4 years, which was HealthSmart for the past 2, and the prior 2 before that was Mutual of Omaha. And then the second part, as discussed, was the subsequent recommendation this year and the rebuttal of the company. Those are the only 2 scopes of work, ma'am.
So anything that has to do with any savings that we could have saved, they're not even gonna look at.
Well, they will, as part of the scope of work, look at the discounts as proposed as to actually what was received. So I think that goes along with what you're saying.
Yeah, because my concern is that I know that we could have saved money on one of the, and I'm trying to log into my, notes here of where I wrote them down, and, my concern is that I know that there's something there that we could have avoided from having to have gotten on the insurance, and apparently we still ended up paying for those fees. And that's where my question is. Are they going to look at that also as well?
If I can get that, ma'am, from you, I can go back and look at our specs. I think the specs were very, very detailed based on the conversations we had here over the prior months in determining to solicit this RFQ.
Okay.
But if you can give me the details, then I will be more than happy to respond to Mr. Springston with an email to all of you. But it should be included because the specs were very, very detailed.
Okay, so they will be looking at the issues that we had a concern with.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I'm logged into the item that I have a concern, and I think that's one of the things that I had a concern originally when we were first going back and forth with the insurance issue. And what I'll do, I guess I'll go ahead and send it to Mr. Springston, and like that, if this company can look into that issue itself, because that's part of the reason, I guess, that we could have saved, and then are all the records going to be handed over to them, or how is it going to be handled? Are you going to be forwarding, are they going to be coming down? Are they going to be are you going to just forward the documents, the
Based
files?
on what we have in the proposals, ma'am, that's all to be determined. The first step here is to basically allow administration to negotiate the fee, and then we can lay out basically the process, the steps. They gave a summarized process, but to get the actual detail in terms of the steps, I think would be probably after tonight, and then the subsequent approval by the board when we bring back a negotiated fee.
But at this time, you've already told them what the layout of the job that they're supposed to be looking at.
Yes, ma'am, based on the specifications with the RFQ. We were very detailed.
So we are going to also look at the TPA fees. The TPA fees that we were charged versus in previous years.
It will be charged versus billed. They'll look at both systems. So what I will do, Ms. Garcia, is I'll provide a copy of the specs, Mr. Springston, if that's okay with the Friday letter in terms of the scope of work. And then that way, if there's any concerns you have from there.
That'd be fine. Just make that part of your overview of the audit firms within that spec guideline.
And everything's going to be handed over to them, like the number of employees versus 1 year versus the other year as well, because that would make a difference also as well, because in the past 3 years, we probably didn't have the number of employees that we've had just in the past year or so.
Yes, ma'am. They will go back to
all of that is going to be
full
taken
4
into
years, yes, ma'am.
consideration. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Whittemore, these all vendors were notified. There's 26 on this list.
Yes, ma'am.
You said you got response only by from 4?
5 total, but one was basically a no bid. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did any of our local respond? Any of our local company agencies respond that are listed on here?
They chose not to, ma'am.
Okay. And then you had specific that you had to look at before you choose who you were going to give it to?
We contacted and recontacted several vendors to try to get a lot of participation. We want this totally transparent, and
how were they notified?
we sent out the bid proposals. It was also on the website, and then the second time when we extended, we personally contacted.
Each and every one?
The vast majority. Some had chose not to, but especially like the big four firms, yes, ma'am.
Because you're putting vendors notified yes to 26. So I'm to understand that you made contact with 26. You did for one, you did for the other.
Yes, ma'am, on everything that was sent out.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Whittemore,
yes, sir.
Anticipated time frame once approved?
120 days is the max that we're looking at. But again, if approved tonight, we will begin negotiations tomorrow, try to get sample contracts for Mr. Saldana to review, come back to the board to finalize and really detail the scope of work and get things moving very quickly.
I move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Being seconded by Ms. Penna. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Escobedo had a
Mr.
question.
President.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Had a,
Just in
At the last
closing,
minute, yes, sir.
it was not really a question, but I think that this company should be notified that we do have an insurance ad hoc committee, and they perhaps will be asked to present to them, so that they don't feel that they're caught by surprise.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, and to the board insurance committee.
Okay.
And the ad hoc, correct?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay.
Thank you.
Item 25, discussion, consideration, and possible action to renew the district's property windstorm and hail insurance for the period January 31st, 2010 to January 31st, 2011 to McGriff, Siebels, and Williams, Inc., Houston, Texas.
Mr. Colunga.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. The question I had was on the coverage that we have currently, if that can be reviewed just for past policy or the property windstorm coverage and deductibles.
Yes, sir. In fact, Joe Blasi, I know you're here. Welcome.
Thank you very much, board members, Mr. Superintendent. The question again was?
If you can review the coverage that we had over the past year.
Absolutely. Well, we bring good news to the board tonight. As you can imagine, last year following Hurricanes Ike and Dolly, we were in a bit of a difficult spot placing the coverage, and we ultimately had to place it with the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, the market of last resort, which limits us to a certain amount of coverage per building, and then it also limits us greatly on the type of buildings that they will cover. So last year we had a 1% deductible for windstorm. This year we will also have a 1% deductible for windstorm. The benefit this year is that the max that we'll have for a non-named storm event, such as a hailstorm or a tornado, is only $100,000 per occurrence. One of the real improvements, I think, this year, beyond the cost savings, is also the fact that we no longer are bound to comply with the TWIA building requirements as we have been in the past. And so what that's done is it's allowed us to now cover $81 million of buildings that weren't covered previously under TWIA. Does that generally help, or would you like more explanation?
Yes, and in trying to look at the cost savings that would be estimated, how is that calculated?
It is a bit convoluted to calculate just based on how TWIA rates buildings, but if you were to take what the district paid last year versus what they will pay this year, there's about a $211,000 savings there. If you were to make it a more apples to apples comparison and compare what the district paid last year, add in that additional $81 million of things that weren't covered by TWIA, it would actually be a much greater savings, closer to $600,000 in premium.
And the quote that being offered as a renewal quote, would that be based on the same specs as last year?
Yes, sir, with considerable improvements.
And the status of the windstorm pool
is no longer such a factor to us now that we've moved the coverage from out of the windstorm pool to a standard A-rated AM Best carrier. As I'm sure the board is familiar, TWIA has experienced considerable financial difficulties since Ike and Dolly, and they've actually now stopped buying reinsurance, and instead the state of Texas is going to issue bonds. So we feel more comfortable placing the coverage with a regulated, rated private insurer.
The renewal being for this board meeting, the previous policy was also moved up as a renewal, so this would be the third year.
Actually, no, sir. Last year, there was an RFP conducted. This is the first option to exercise the renewal. I'm sorry. Oh, this is the second? I'm sorry. This is the second. You're right. The time frame was moved up. Okay.
So it is possible to achieve savings of more than the projected cost savings for the policy based on estimated cost savings?
I think at this point, this is going to be the maximum cost savings, but I think certainly next year, if we can have a windstorm-free 2010, we'll see considerable savings additionally.
Then is this the best value to the district based on your recommendation?
Yes, sir, it is. And we're, again, the TCPN vendor. We help most of the coastal school districts in Texas, and we feel very strongly that this response is the best value to BISD.
Thank you.
Garcia.
On the, Mr. Springston, do you recall that we ever got compensated for the damages during the last hurricane?
Yes, ma'am. There were percentages that we were getting back to. Mr. Fuller, can you remember those exact numbers? I know it was a percentage of, wasn't like 68% of the 200,000 that we were getting in sections of checks. I don't recall. I remember it was a little while back.
Mr. Springston, Mr. Aguilar, members of the board, basically it was 75% state and 25% us. So we did get reimbursed for our share.
And all the buildings and the equipment, everything was completely reimbursed?
Not completely, not
Well,
the
but
percentage-wise,
reimbursed
yes,
to the
ma'am.
percentage that we were supposed to have gotten reimbursed.
Yes, ma'am.
So if, this is a question to the insurance agent. So obviously, if we have claims, our insurance premium is going to go up. Am I correct?
Not necessarily. Your premium is really contingent upon what happens in the way of hurricane activity. So even though you may have a large hailstorm, as the district did 5 or 6 years ago, as long as there's not other catastrophes affecting the Gulf Coast, then you may actually see a premium reduction. So it really has to do with the aggregate amount of hurricane activity or catastrophe activity that takes place along the Gulf Coast.
Correct. So we have not been really hit. We've been very fortunate, thank God, and we've been blessed. But what has this company really given back to the district as a cost savings? Because obviously, I think if I'm not mistaken, this company has been doing business with the district already for a while. So what has the company really been able to go out there and get for us the best deal that we can?
Actually,
versus what's out there?
This carrier, this is going to be their first year as the primary carrier because we're replacing them. We're replacing the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association. So last year, they had just a small piece of the excess coverage. And this year what we've done is move them down to be the primary carrier. And what that's allowed us to do is cut the premium by $200,000 plus. I would also point out that were we to have renewed with the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, they wanted a 15.6% rate increase on BISD. And so again, that was just going to be an additional cost we were trying to avoid.
Peña.
So then, 3,711,217, that's the best we could get?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. For this year, correct.
I'm just having a hard time swallowing 3 million. Well, that was 4 million. We got a $200,000 savings, but when you're talking millions, it seems like a penny. But that's the best deal that we were able to negotiate.
It is. You've got $750 million of building values, building and contents values here locally with a considerable amount in the way of portables, light scoreboards, lighting, things of that nature. So, again, you are really the victims of what's going on. Location and certainly what's happened with hurricanes in the last 5 years in the coastal United States. But I can say with absolute certainty that if we have a hurricane-free 2010, you'll see a considerable reduction.
So, I have another question. So that means,
Excuse me, Ms. Sias,
I'm fine.
you gave up, okay.
so that means that the state will give us part of the damages and then the insurance only gives us a certain percentage? Is that what I understand? So we get more from the state than our own insurance carrier?
We get ours from FEMA.
Actually, if I can clarify, this carrier will be the primary respondent for your damage. So if you are to sustain, as several of the districts had during Ike, for example, Beaumont ISD is in the midst of a $70 million loss. Their carrier, their insurance carrier will be the first to pay. If there is any remaining deductible amount that you have to pay, then you're eligible to go to FEMA for that deductible. And in your case, you have a 1% deductible. So with Dolly, it was a small event, and so the reason the majority of the money came from FEMA is because it was to cover that deductible. Had you had an Ike situation or a Category 3 or 4 storm with several $1 million of damage, the insurance would have paid the bulk of that. So, and one other point about FEMA, they've made it very clear to public entities such as school districts in the last few years, particularly since Katrina, that they should not be looked to for insurance recovery for underinsurance. So several districts a few years ago were considering just not buying windstorm insurance because the cost had become so prohibitive. FEMA has now issued what's called the Stafford Act, which makes it abundantly clear to public entities that they are not to be looked to as the first payer of claims. So I think Dolly was a unique situation in that they were really just reimbursing you for your deductible.
Yeah, but I find, to me, $3 million plus is, and again, we're very fortunate. We're not as close as Port Isabel and the other school. I mean, we're a little bit further out, but still. And I don't know. It's and then, okay, I find it very hard to digest. I mean, that much amount of money, and we really if you were to have given me a list of all the claims that this district, that these taxpayers have been filing for damages or burnt buildings or, roofs blown out, but obviously the damages have been very minimal, and for us to be paying $3 million plus is a lot of money. Through the past 5 years, have we had claims? Yes. Have they been big claims? No. And I think we should be considered, to be able to get a better deal. But, if that's what you say, I guess, I just have a concern.
I'm ready for a question, please. Do I have a motion?
Let me just ask one.
All right.
Did I hear you correctly? We're insuring $750 million worth of buildings that BISD owns?
Correct. Buildings and contents.
So then the 3.7 million comes out to like a premium of half of 1%, right?
Correct.
Compared to the insurance on your house is much higher than that. So it's not a bad deal overall. There's no way the district can afford to take a risk of $750 million loss and end up with a situation catastrophic of $70 million. It'd break us.
Correct.
So this is a necessary evil that we have to pay for.
At the end, the rainy day fund will
With
pay
that,
anyway.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Guerra. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Pat?
Closed meeting is pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551071, 551072, 551074, 551082, and 551084. Item 27, recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year, teachers, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation. Item 28, recommend approval of Chapter 21 contractual professional personnel for the 2009-2010 school year, administrator for athletics, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation. Item 32, discussion and consideration to finalize sole finalist Brett Springston's contract for superintendent, board member request. It's 8:05. Executive session.
Back on the regular meeting session.
Recommend approval of probationary contractual personnel for the 2009-2010 school year teachers, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
Mr. President, I motion to approve 27 and 28.
I second.
Okay, would you read number 28 also, ma'am?
Recommend approval of Chapter 21 contractual professional personnel for the 2009-2010 school year, administrator for athletics, subject to receipt of all outstanding documentation.
It's been moved by Mrs. Presas Garcia, second by Mrs. Peña. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Next.
Item 32, discussion and consideration to finalize sole finalist Brett Springston's contract for superintendent, board member request.
Mr.
Do I
Aguilar?
get- Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Brett Springston's final contract as discussed in executive session.
I second.
Second by Ms. Peña and Mr. Sayas. Do I get a roll drum? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Like Mr. Trevino said, you'll need help.
And you'll give it to us.
Hey, let's go back.
Notice he said
That's right,
that after the vote.
Mr. Cortez?
After the vote.
Before the vote, he was Mr. Nice Guy.
Mr. Cortez?
I just want to congratulate you, Mr. Springston. I know the Herald had asked me for some comments. I hadn't shared those with you. I'm sure you read them in the paper. But I want to officially welcome you as our superintendent for Brownsville Schools. The performance that the leadership that you've demonstrated up to now is, I mean, you've been put through some things that superintendents won't go through in a lifetime. And you've handled them with the utmost of respect for all parties involved. And, you know, it's been a pleasure working with you. I look forward to working with you. I've heard nothing but positive from the district. So welcome as superintendent of schools for Brownsville ISD.
Mr. Aguilar?
Peña?
I also want to welcome you and thank you because I've known you have done a lot of hard work and spend many a night here making sure everything keeps going. And you have a passion and there's a fire in you that is going to help us grow and be better. And I wish you many success, much happiness, and that you prosper as a superintendent. And we're here to serve you and help you get there. So thank you.
Mr. Springston, I really look forward to working with you. I've really enjoyed working with you in the past. You have shown the leadership, the capability, the love for children, and man, you're a hardworking individual. You just have it naturally. You're the type of individual that comes with a good work ethic, and it's probably because of your upbringing. Regardless, I really look forward to the future with you, and I think you're going to do wonders for the school district, and I wish you nothing but the best, and we're here in any way to support you and help you make this district go forward and prosper.
Doctor?
Yes, Mr. Springston, again, congratulations. I know that being a superintendent of schools is a goal and a dream of any ambitious administrators, and this is a goal that you've finally accomplished tonight. Congratulations. I'm here to help you, help the district. Count on my support for anything that's in the best interest of the district. Congratulations. And would you like to name a name for administrative athletics? Who did we just approve?
I will do that directly.
All righty, yes, sir.
First 10. First 10.
Garcia?
Mr. Springston, you know, congratulations, and I know you've been through a lot. I think we've all known that you've been through a hard and rough ride, but I think we need to work together as a team, and I think that'll make you stronger, and that'll make us stronger. I think by sharing what I feel is just, we need to try to be as transparent as we can, be honest, and try to move this district forward and make the best of it. And I wish you the best of luck, and I know that this was your dream to become a superintendent, and I think that you know, Brownsville felt that you deserved the opportunity, and you done very well. And I think that if you embrace the staff that is willing to work with you, I think we're going to do really, really well. And these children from this district will succeed. And who knows, maybe you'll be here until we get another Broad Award prize.
Mr. Springston, congratulations as you begin your superintendency. Thank you for your service during the past year as interim, and wish you the best as the superintendent.
Brent, even though I have been working with you very closely over the past year and a half, I have known you basically more than just a year and a half, ever since you came from San Antonio School District. And it was through those years that I've been keeping my eye on you, the way you organize your cluster and how you improve that PACE cluster, whereas we started getting all these people getting recognized schools. In fact, I was very proud of Mr. Guerra when he first came in, and I congratulated him, said, you know, all the schools are recognized or exemplary, and he said this, it is easy when those schools had already been there. I just happened to be in the right place. And I've always, I think I'm share that with you, and I've always admired Mr. Guerra for coming up front and say, I just happened to be in the right place in the right time. And so it's not only that I've seen you, but also the way you work with curriculum, the way you have worked with people, our staff. Yes, we expect expectations, and I hope all our community and also our school district employees would embrace Mr. Superintendent. This is the first time in a long time that all 7 members has agreed on a superintendent, if you recall historically. And they're here to telling you we're going to work together. We expect high expectations from you. We expect our young people keep on learning despite all the changes that the state may require. The expectation is still there. And also the accountability that goes with it, being a superintendent and our personnel. There's no question in my mind that we're going to be, okay, we're going to do an excellent job, and with the support of the board and all the people across BISD, let's get behind our chief. We can do a good job, an excellent job. And you'll be surprised that 2 years from down the road, you're going to say, yeah, you know what? He was a man. And I want to thank our board members. Even though we sometimes disagreement items, and which is right to do that, back door, we almost had a fight. No, not really.
Yes, we did.
But it was a good understanding what our expectations are for our superintendent, and it was an agreement that we come here and with a unanimous decision. So welcome aboard, Mr. Springton. It's a nice Christmas, right?
Very nice.
Mr. Springton.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Being just a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, I will say that when you have lifetime goals and something like this happens, it's very touching, it's very humbling. But at the same time, I will say that yes, we do have a few obstacles that we have to overcome over the next year. Of course, one is our biotech situation that we are working with, and I will be sending you out a 6-month and 12-month plan through our audit services that you will get on your Friday letter to kind of detail some of the things that we have found and what we're doing to fix these problems because our employees are our mainstay, and those are the ones that we have to make sure that we're treating with the utmost respect, and that we're treating and giving them every due diligence, our efforts to make sure that they're getting what they deserve. The other thing is policies and procedures that we're constantly updating because we have made so many changes in the last several years that we have not updated our people in certain positions, and we have found ourselves, according to our audit, that we do need to do some due diligence in our trainings and to making sure that we are making people feel good about their jobs. We're not an I get you type of group. We don't want to be an I get you type of group, but we want to train our people and support them and pat them on the back, and when they don't do things the way they're supposed to, we show them how, and then we hold them accountable for those time forward. The next challenge that we have, of course, is going to be the new accountability system. And I was sharing that with the AAs, and we've been sharing it with our principals, and I'll share it with you on a Friday letter, and I'm going to do an open presentation with you come January. And just as an example, that if I was to use last year's scores, and 84% of our schools would be recognized or exemplary with the 2009 accountability standards, if we use those same scores and put them in the 2010 accountability mode, we would have 55% of our schools recognized or exemplary. The ceiling is going up. The standards are going up, and it's something for me to be able to lead our district into that new era of accountability and reach that ceiling that the state and the federal government has put forth for us. And that's a challenge to our principals. That's a challenge to us as a team of 8. And the one thing that I am proud of is that through the training that we're getting through the Meadows Foundation, we're working together. And we're seeing things in a common goal, and I've kind of just named 4 different areas in facilities and procedures and policies and curriculum and those things that we're going to be looking at as far as benchmarks, and those are things that we're going to be working on. So I've kind of outlined some things for us and for myself and for the leadership crew that's studying here beforehand. I want to congratulate and I want to thank the leadership crew that we have because they're the ones who have gotten us where we are today. And I want to thank those principals that are still here and people in facilities, the people that we're working with, my administrative assistants. We've been doing this for almost a year now, and we've been working very hard at this. And so all I can say in the teacher organizations that I get to work with back here, John, glad to see you still being here. And it's an honor and a privilege, and I look forward to taking this challenge, using it as an obstacle, and finding ways to fight these obstacles and win the battle for our kids. And last and not least, I would like to say that we've hired an athletic director this evening, highly qualified, and I think you'll do a great job for our district, and I'd like to congratulate Mr. Tom Chavez.
Announcements?
Announcements, sir?
Mr. Springton?
I think I'm talked out. No, I will say that I want to wish everyone a happy holidays. We've got 3 days here of school. We want to make sure that I've told the AAs and that our mainstay right now is to make sure that our children are safe during these 3 days, and that we also have an opportunity to take a break from our work schedules and be with family and friends and have an opportunity to relax, because third quarter is coming right back when we get in January to prepare for our tax season. We will not give up on our curriculum. We are not going to teach to the test. We're going to teach to the curriculum, and that's the key to getting our kids the success that they need. And we're going to continue with that endeavor starting the third quarter when we get back in January. And since we've canceled our board meeting on January the 15th, we have a good...
January 5th.
January 5th, excuse me, then we have a nice little break until our next meeting, which will be held on January the 19th of 2010. And so, of 2010.
Wow.
So everyone,
2010.
happy holidays, happy New Year from all of us here at BISD. Thank you.
Next item, Ms. Perez.
Adjournment, sir.
Move to, Mr. Peña, move to, who was it, Cortez? Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Ms. Peña.
That's hard for you to say.
Everybody's like,
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
good night, Brownsville.
Mr.